Afghanistan, racism, lying, the American dream. All of these ideas bring together the nature of the Kite Runner tonight on the International Informer. Here with us is Dr. Khaled Housini to discuss these significant areas of the novel.
In the book is talking about the early life of Amir and Hassan, where Hassan and Amir are sharing their lives together, playing cards, enjoying life, flying kites, running kites, participating in kite running competitions, and spending time at movie theaters and enjoying themselves and living life together. But then you kind of run into this whole idea of the contingent love of Baba, which is conflicting Amir's interest and almost making him more and more cruel throughout the book to Hassan. After that, we run into Amir's betrayal of Hassan, allowing him to get violated horribly. And that ends up scarring Amir almost more than it does Hassan for the entire book.
While considering its main plot and the overall outlook of the book, we traveled out to Chapel Hill Mall in Akron, Ohio, to see what the public thinks about Housini's The Kite Runner.
What was your favorite part about this book because you have it?
I like the part where he was a writer, because I'm also a writer, so I really felt a connection between Amir and Neely because he was also a writer. I understood coming up with stories and how it feels to create an entire novel. So.
The character Amir, do you feel, he was kind of a younger person. Do you feel what he did was wrong? Do you think he kind of compensated for that at the end of his life?
I think he tried to definitely make amends, but I mean, it was dealing with, I guess what any person would have did at that time, trying to definitely save his life as well as other lives. But watching, I think it definitely became an issue. How far do you allow somebody to go before you can actually step in? That was just very traumatizing. I think that forever will haunt him more than actually life itself.
Now here's an interesting question. He was about 12 years old, so watching what he did, do you think that might have been different if he was, say, 20? Just because of how young he was, do you really think that he knew entirely what he was doing?
I don't think he knew entirely what he was doing, but if he speeded up in time and he said he was about 20, his actions and reactions would have definitely been way different. He wouldn't have been, I can't say he went along with it, but he would have definitely fought more.
Yeah.
As far as, and then his punishment definitely would have been different as far as what happened to him. I don't think he would have been abused like that.
Baba and Amir leave for the U.S., and eventually they find that living in the U.S. isn't exactly as easy for them, mostly because Baba back in Afghanistan had it made and had it great. Once they were in the U.S. for a while, Baba gave up welfare and started trying to take back his manhood. And then Amir started meeting this beautiful woman named Soraya, and he spent time courting her and ends up marrying her. And the rest of the book kind of tracks through their marriage, the hardships of not being able to have children. But then something really key happens. Amir gets this call from Rahim Khan, one of his father's old family friends. And Rahim Khan tells him there's a way to be good again. Then Amir leaves from there and tries to redeem what he did to Hassan, or let happen to Hassan. And he goes back and tries to save Hassan's son, Sohrab, back in Afghanistan. And as he's doing this, you just see these obstacle after obstacle in his way, whether it's just the Taliban in general, or if it's ASF specifically, who he ends up confronting and fighting down, and eventually Sohrab saves him.
As well as the plot of the novel, another crucial aspect of The Kite Runner is the importance of the history and culture of Afghanistan. We went back to Chapel Hill Mall in search of everyone's initial thoughts regarding the country as a whole.
When you hear Afghanistan, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oil, wars, money, politics, government.
Yeah.
Friends. There's a reason why, but that's okay.
Air Force.
Air Force?
Yes.
Okay.
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of you say the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Middle Eastern people.
Okay.
Afghanistan has always been a land characterized by war and conflict. But in the novel, The Kite Runner, specifically mentioned are the Soviet coup that occurred in the early 80s and late 70s, and also the Taliban takeover that happened directly afterwards.
One of the running things is the coup d'etat that happens in Afghanistan during the time of the book as Baba is leaving. And it's a weird moment because it doesn't come back up until the end of the book, but it signals a change in the structure of what's going on in the book from him living in Afghanistan, him spending time there, to him being in America and living his life in a more like hardship-based place where he's trying to work, and it almost changes him from this weird relationship between his father to one that's redeemable and one that's being redeemed.
Currently, the United States is at war with Afghanistan. We have been engaged in conflict since October of 2001, about a month after the September 11th attacks. And as of right now, we are still at war in Afghanistan. This conflict is primarily between the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and the US, the United Kingdom, Australia, and some other powers. Recent polls say that the Afghanis are favorable of the US military rather than the Taliban that currently holds power. And as of May 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed, a key player in the Al-Qaeda and Taliban structure, and plans for the U.S. to withdraw in 2013 and 2014 look promising.
But another thing that happens in politics is the invasion of the Soviets that happens right after that, and eventually the takeover of the Taliban, which affects a huge part of the rescue of Sohrab because it puts Asaf in a place of power.
Regarding Afghanistan, we asked for the thoughts of how people pictured the country years ago.
How do you picture Afghanistan 40 years ago?
Not as run down or as blown up as it is now.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably just vibrant country decades ago.
Yeah.
And maybe poverty-stricken, third world country.
Maybe 50 years.
Having served in the United Nations, I can answer that question quite succinctly.
Okay, great.
30 years ago, it was a monarchy with one railway between points. Tribal elders ruled everything. They still pretty much do, but now, chaos.
More of a peaceful place, like sandy, but a nice place to live where everybody's hospitable.
Okay.
We've definitely blown up a lot of buildings over there. It's definitely in chaos, a lot of disarray. The government structure definitely needs a lot of work.
So if you look at it 40 years ago, do you think it was similar, or do you think it was pretty different?
Very different, very much different. From the dictator to who's in leadership to just the way gas prices, oil prices. It was still chaotic, but it was a lot less rebels and a lot more a little bit controlled.
Many hardships are portrayed in the novel, one of which is the lasting idea of betrayal.
Amir's betrayal and Baba's betrayal seem to be key parts in the book that play a vital role in explaining why things are happening. Because most of the issues in the book surround Baba's betrayal, which eventually results in Amir's betrayal inadvertently.
Have either of you ever felt betrayed?
No,
Okay, you said yes. How did that feel?
never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what does that kind of feel like?
It's like sad knowing that you did something and then you didn't get rewarded for it, kind of.
Yes. How'd that feel?
Bad.
Not actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
How does that feel?
Not good.
No.
A lot of times.
How does that feel to you?
It feels like, you end up in a dark room with no one there when someone else is supposed to be with you. But you feel like you're all alone in the dark room.
Yes, I have felt betrayed, and it's not a good feeling. Very upsetting, disheartening.
Another significant hardship in the novel is racism, starting with the Pashtuns.
They make 42% of the Afghani population, with the Hazaras comprising about 9%. The conflict between these two races is explored in the novel The Kite Runner, the Hazaras clearly being the inferior race of the two.
It really seems shallow because it's about people who live together and share the same religion yet are still trying to fight against each other. But you can see this throughout the entire book with the Hazaras being servants to the Pashtun regime. And while this is happening, you see Asif even trying just to take out all Hazaras and to oppress them as much as he can, to the point where he violates Hassan almost for that reason.
In addition to betrayal and racism, the hardship of political conflict concerning the Taliban leads Baba and Amir to flee the country of Afghanistan in pursuit of the American dream. We asked people how they would feel if they were forced to flee their country and leave everything behind.
If you had to leave the United States for some reason, how would you feel?
Really sad because this is where I know everybody. My family's here, so I would feel really strange going to a place, especially if it would be a place where I didn't know the language.
Sad because I have to leave my friends and start a new
Leave everything you have.
I would feel homesick because I'd have to probably leave my family, but I'd be pretty excited to go to a different country.
Okay.
That's a hard question to answer because the circumstances vary. I mean, sometimes it would be yeah, and sometimes it would be dread.
Depending on the circumstance, but I'm leaving my family, and it just depends on what the objective is, but it probably would be a scary feeling.
I've done that. It's really scary at first, but then it gets really exciting because once you start meeting people, it's like a new experience.
For our final question, we went to Akron one last time to uncover various views regarding the justification of lying, a major aspect of the novel.
When is lying justifiable?
That's a hard question to answer. The noble answer is never. The pragmatic answer is if lives depended on it, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yes. What do you think?
It depends, like, if there's a good reason for the lie.
Yeah.
Like if somebody didn't want to hang out with each other and they had plans and they lied about, say like they had plans and then they told the person that they didn't, and then they lied about it. So yeah, I still have plans, and I think that'd be okay because the plans were canceled and you didn't do it.
Okay.
Never. Deceiving people, especially the fact that we can communicate is a gift that we've given, and if you use it in the wrong way, it's kind of taking that gift that we were giving and betraying the person that gave it to us.
Well, I don't think God, as a house, if he says one thing, I don't think there's too many. I believe if you go to too many things, like you one way and one way, a house can't stand. You have to be one, everybody has to be one accord. So I believe lying is a sin, so I don't believe it's justified at all.
Never, you don't think it's justifiable anytime?
No, I think a sin is a sin.
Sometimes. We
Alright.
blame on somebody else.
What, can you give an example of when you think lying would be justifiable? No? You? Sure, you can think of something.
When you don't want to get in trouble.
You think it's justifiable then?
Yes.
Alright. Alrighty.
Well, society will have you thinking that ethically, if it's proven, it could be okay. But morally and like being Christian and spiritually, it definitely conflicts with your interest. And unfortunately, you gotta pay the price. Like, a sin is still a sin, no matter how big or small. A lie is still a lie, whether it is a white lie, gray lie, even if it's an untold, like, I just didn't quite tell the whole truth. It either is or it isn't. So it's like yes or no. There's no like gray area. So punishment definitely has to come.
Now, what do you think if it has to do with the life of somebody, whether you're protecting somebody's life, do you think lying is okay then?
It all goes back to ethics. How are you ethically brought up? Is it wrong to lie? Yes, because in the Bible, in the 10 Commandments, it says, thou shalt not lie. So it has already been stated and stipulated, just follow the rules, but because we are human, we do understand we make mistakes. So I still would say no, and there's going to be consequences for the action, whether you pay it now or whether you pay it in the tribulation. It's still going to be consequences for that. It's just all about, are you able to handle the consequences that's going to come?
Our discussion today covered the plot, background, and significance of Khaled Housini's The Kite Runner and how it accurately relates to Afghanistan. Next time on The International Informer, civil engineer Yashua Hammershein describes the feat of constructing the world's longest suspension bridge between Alaska and Russia.